Long time ago, just after stuff had started to become stuff, something remarkable happened. Whereas particles and little stuff could be in two places at once, and other weird things, big stuff was different. When big stuff became different types of stuff, it had to be one kind of different stuff or another. What that meant was that the stuff that was a star, and the stuff that was a star wasn't an asteroid, and that the stuff was either a star or it wasn't a star. This was how stuff at the big level worked, and this went on unnoticed for billions of years because, as far as we know, there was nothing to notice it. Eventually, a Greek bloke called Aristotle started to look at stuff. He really liked looking at stuff, and as he looked at stuff he realised that if he looked at a tree, he was looking at a tree, and if he looked at a tree, he wasn't looking at a fish. And he must either be looking at something that was a tree, or something that wasn't a tree. He realised that this must be how the universe is built, and that there was no denying it, at least not until naughty quantum mechanics came along. But Aristotle didn't know about quantum mechanics. Aristotle thought that this must mean that everything in the universe must be the same, even arguments. Because arguing that a tree is not a tree, or that a tree is a fish, or that a tree could be a fish as well as a tree is pretty silly. So in books that people will one day call posterior analytics, he used these truths of material nature to set out 3 rules. These were A equals A, or something is what it is and isn't what it isn't, or a tree is a tree. This is known as the law of identity. The second was A does not equal B, or something cannot be both true and false at the same time in the same sense, or a tree is not a fish, known as the law of non-contradiction. And the third one is that something must be true or else it's false, or he's either looking at a tree or he isn't. This is known as the law of excluded middle. Aristotle was pretty happy with these laws, and they seemed to make sense. Despite them having problems, they pretty much worked and allowed all arguments to be grounded in the real world and how it worked. Then, almost 2,500 years later, a few very silly people forgot that these ideas came from nature and tried to call them immaterial. That is, not coming from stuff, although they are no more immaterial than calling an apple, or a jaguar, or any of the other describing words that come from our cultures and our brains and our mouths. So you see, they don't have to come from the will of a transcendent mind. They just come from one very clever bloke looking at the big stuff the universe is made of about 2,500 years ago. Sadly, the little quantum stuff doesn't care about these so-called absolutes, because little quantum stuff is either very, very naughty, or didn't get the memo from the transcendental brain. Silly quantum!